I don't know anything right now. Isn't that weird? She's happy. Almost up. Okay, when you don't know anything about this world, when you're in a spiritual condition, as many people are in this world, literally hundreds of millions, and almost none of them are known, even if they're family members, because they're always quite contrite, simple, circumspect, and this delicate part in their heart cannot be expressed. It's another frame of reference. It's lighter than air, it's kinder than daylight, and sweeter than the noonday breeze. It's just a sacredness. I've known very, very powerful people that have that, but it's never expressed, and very indeterminate, lighthearted people that carry that with them consciously and don't even try to be the powerful being they are, because the world doesn't accept it, doesn't regard it. And I'm speaking for hundreds of millions of people who are spiritual, know that despite the fact no one ever listens, no one's ever there, this is not a condemnation, it's not a complaint, it's the truth. So even though no one actually listens, you're not reacting to that. You have a steady state of a conscious awareness of the actual intention of God, that infinite presence, that it's an infinite intelligence. The other week I said it doesn't matter if you believe in God, you can be completely spiritual, be illumined. There are different words for it around the world. And it's basically a condition of being humble, kind, considerate, deep within your own heart. I think the most powerful actual warrior I've ever known in this world is completely illumined and spiritual and kind and decent and true, and is that person that I just described, that enormous in the realm of what people think a warrior is. Point being that God consciousness, or nirvana, spiritual illumination, is a direct awareness, as I'm right now, and I'm speaking for all of us, aware of a literally another dimension. Literally. It's wonderful, it's eternal. You're actually in touch with that which people call heaven. Excuse me. And you're never not in touch with it. It's completely different than everything in the world. And this is the point I'm going to bring us to, is the fact that this world need not be. This morning I had a beautiful cactus that a friend of mine gave to me, who escaped a war-torn land and was terribly damaged by it on the way out here. And it was a beautiful, beautiful cactus, and so there were some dry leaves on it, and I was picking them out, and of course hit my tip of my finger with it, and I didn't cry out, and I just took it like a man. And the point being that it was a beautiful gift. I loved it. It was beautiful. It was given as a gift to someone who was considerate towards this person's plight. And the circumstance the person went through was so horrific, and they're now a powerful person. They were from that war-torn land. And the cactus was a beautiful gift. And that little sharp edge in there was not meant to be. She was a hero. The plant was something that was a beautiful gift, and yet it had that little sharp edge on it, which is representative of this whole world. There are no sharp edges in eternity, in heaven. There are realms and conditions and states of consciousness that are more than everyone has ever considered love. Everyone who isn't of this illumined condition, called God, called eternity. None of these words work. None of these words mean anything. The beautiful harmony of it, the serenity of it is compounded infinitely, and yet you can be consciously aware of it. Simply saying that when you have these enormous illuminated states, they're for real, they're forever. They're what counts. Not the humdrum every day, the socio-political atmosphere of any place at any time in the world. Last week we spoke about the fact that there are only two kinds of people forever. It wasn't when man lived in trees and then caves or whatever. There have always been spiritual people and material people, or who believe their body was their life. And they're beyond them, like where we have heaven beyond us, behind us, with us, surrounding us, lifting us, who are spiritual. And the other people have these dark beings. And there's a great mixture in this world because it's a war-torn land. And it need not be. There are no sharp edges in that which we'll call God, and that which is the real you. And you can let go of every sharp edge, every blunt instrument, and you can see Him, the only God. And again, the words fall so short. But the serenity, the joy, again, compounded infinitely. I'm turning myself inside out to say something that I'm trying not to say, and yet, if you're spiritual, you're born to say it, to express it, to know it, to live it, to abide by it. You live in a higher condition than everyone. I don't want to use the word higher. You see what I'm saying? You want to be very humble. You want to bring everyone into it all the time. You turn yourself inside out to find the right words, the right sentiment, the right emotion. You're always aware of who you're communicating with. And along with that, we talked about I know I've developed many endless kinds of ways of contributing to the way that we can communicate to one another. I can be very quiet and listen to people, acknowledge what they're saying, because I know for myself I've never been listened to or acknowledged. Like 2 or 3 times it happens every year where someone listens to you. I mean, truly, there. Like my buddy Adam, some kind of one of these geniuses, and I'm not going to go into it further than that, who actually listens and has the same spirituality and yet is in the middle of the thick of it in the business world and so forth. And so in that rare instance, they know what that is, to listen to someone and not have anything going on inside. And you have to train yourself to be there. Or you can be born there. There is a God, there is a heaven. There is a condition called illumination, enlightenment, spiritual consciousness. There is the beatific vision, the vision of God. It's spoken of very clearly and fluently by Aldous Huxley in the Perennial Philosophy, and so many thousands of other works. And if I remember reading it first, I was like, the amount of passages that he included that were always talking about humility, humility, humility. And yet these were great saints' words. In other words, they're very, very powerful beings. When you live in heaven, you live here in this place. The world doesn't exist. Everyone is lost. And you have to be, and you are, unimaginably humble. And yet, All of us who are spiritual must find ways. We work, we turn ourselves inside out. Around the clock, we feel like giants in the world of children that we love with all of our heart and soul, and will gladly hang on a cross for them. With joy, with happiness, to do the right thing if it will bring them up one hairline out of the mud, the muck. No more sharp edges, no more fear, no more pain, no more worry, no more sadness, no more insecurity, in the most delicate sense. So when you come in touch with He whose name should not be spoken, it's you. You are that. You are God. These words are so unsatisfactory. The condition, the ecstasy, the joy, the simplicity, the clarity of knowing God, it's an ocean of light. All of us who are born with this condition, we're rattled all day, we're attacked, we're savaged by everyone's consciousness, by psyche, not simply able to be aware of you invisibly, without any reaction, it's not a state of adoration, it's a state of awareness. There's no ego involved, in other words. So if someone spiritual were to say that I am the light and the way and the truth, it would be the absolute God's truth, but it wouldn't help anyone. You want to turn yourself inside out to say, you are the way, you are the light, you are the truth. And that would be utterly satisfactory if each person could accept that. They are as God is. There's no need for any pain. It should not be. It doesn't have to be. It won't be. Very shortly, in terms of what this world system is, it's a tiny pinprick in eternity. It's like one little sharp edge that existed and doesn't exist anymore. Heaven is infinite, 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 and it's a consciousness that we arrive at through being kind and true and aware. And you don't even have to believe in a God, but you do have to believe in you, quietly, simply, humanly, and yes, magically. It's like a little child's eyes. It's just that wonder at life. It's always here. Don't we feel it? Don't we know it? It's you. You've always been. You will always be. There's nothing wrong with you. You step through this prism of beautiful light into the presence that is your actual body. You're not this thing, this place, this seeming world. You're so much more. You're remarkable, you're wonderful, you're true, you're eternal. And it's a consciousness, lighter than air. You've always been. You are that light, that wonder, that simplicity. We walk away from the world seen to God unseen, unknown, unbeknownst to the world at large. Everything will be answered through this powerful weapon called faith. I know my buddy, the great, great warrior, one of those secret kind of people that are beyond belief and live that life for many, many years, has this thing. And what my buddy does is he does this for his family, for those he loves, for his nation that he understands in a spiritual way. And I see it in his children's eyes, his wife, etc., family. It's something so much, it's preferable to everything else in life. And yet spirituality entails no violence, no pain, no threat, no remorse. There's no guilt. It just is. And at the same time, you'll accept all these things from the world. Like I said, hang on a cross for a friend you love. It's like, you'll love to do it. I was trying to explain to a friend the other day that it doesn't matter you're unhappy, it matters that you don't put that unhappiness on other people. You resolve it within yourself. We all have our case, you know, like if you're working with a lawyer, or my teacher here works helping with people all the time. It's our individual case, but when you work with someone, you put that aside and you're completely present. We all have a home life, a family life, but if you're a professional in any sense, you put that aside and you go to work, right? You work with the rhythm of the earth. In a spiritual life, you're able to step completely away from what's going on in your daily life. Boom, and be right here. Thank you. And then what happened? Thank you. You acknowledge things, you listen, and you don't exist within yourself, only this pure concentration, this pure awareness, this simplicity. I'll speak for myself. I'm completely invisible, transparent to myself right now. So when I work with people, there's no one home, literally. And I'm very cautious about how this sounds, but this is for all spiritual people. It's not that we're better, we're special, but there is a God, and we are as God is, literally. I'm using these words and I'm unhappy with them because everyone has to be included. And yet you have to use these words at a point because the world is a vicious taskmaster. It is, it's cold. It's hell. It's not meant. And you escape it through spiritual awareness. Simple as that. Not this, not that. Remember last week we talked about my Hindu friends and the great teachers of spiritual awareness in India. They would say, not this, not that. In other words, no matter what it is, even if it's great ecstasy and joy and happiness and divine revelation, it's not even that. Even that's the illusion. In Deuteronomy, it said somewhere in the Bible, the early Bible, it said, do not worship change. In other words, there is no change. You only worship God, this higher consciousness. People read these works and they're poetic. They have to be. Their spiritual writings are, because there are no words. I'm lost in this soup today because there are no words for, none of this has to be. It does not exist in me. It never has. Even when the world's laying trips on me and you're in the middle of all the garbage, it's still deep in your center. You're aware of, even though you have to act out like my buddy the warrior, every now and then he has to do what he has to do, but it's protect the innocent. But we never have to do that. We do have to understand this quiet state, condition, where you accept your own divinity. If you say that to a religious person, then they'll get mad at that. If you, I mean, it's just, so the words are always unsatisfactory. But the condition is yours. So you step away from the whole world, you find a way to communicate it to yourself or a few lovely friends you might have that are dear to you and trustworthy, and that in itself would be a miracle. You know what's being said. You find somebody to love. It's the greatest thing in everyone's life, but nothing like it. to love that which we'll call God today. Imagine such a condition. And you'll feel it. You'll know it. You'll be it. You'll live it. You'll give it. You'll pray with it, to it, for it, from it. You'll disappear back into the light from whence you are. You are the living light, the light living. It's a high state of being, but it's simpler than that. It's so kind, it's so true. These are using words to contrast with the way this world subsists or exists. It's very sad. It need not be. And you don't have to surrender yourself to the condition. It just is. Not this, not that. We don't worship change. We're not going to prove the world or disapprove something or make a statement on any subject matter whatsoever. We're simply going to perceive the infinite lightness, the clarity and consciousness, this pure state of being that spiritual people always enjoy, are aware of, live with. And they've always been victimized in the sense that this world is hell. This is the hell. I remember laughing a few weeks ago. We started the meditation class, and my buddies laughed at me because it's a wonderful way to start a meditation class, saying, "This is hell." Well, it is, meaning this world. We all know what's being said. It need not be. It's unnecessary. It's not that it's incomplete and we can fix it. You step back away from it in the clarity of your own heart and soul, and it'll disappear. Not this, not that. So you quietly remove yourself from the world in a state of prayer, like I talked about a few weeks ago. And I'd 13th and Locust in South Philly, and certain times I'd visit home from I was overseas, whatever, and there was no good place to go. I was downtown there. I was just taking a walk through the city, and I was feeling all this magic and beauty, and going to one of my friends' clubs, I guess 13th and Locust, there was something around there. And I was going to stop in there, see some friends, and the only safe place to be, everyone was dressed up for Friday night or Saturday night, and there was one of these, whatever, and so I would go in this parking lot out there. I'd sit between two garbage cans there, and like where no one would see me, because this condition is so, you're not fighting, oh no, it's so wonderful. It's like when I go down the ocean, and you don't want to feel anyone else's consciousness around it, because first of all, you're humble, and second of all, you don't feel it when there's someone there. When I go running on the beach and down here in Pescadero on a Sunday morning or something, I have to go early before anyone's there. As soon as one person's up on the cliffs overlooking it, I can't run, because they're mind machine. You feel it, and it takes all the beauty away. When I lived in the Redwoods through most of the 90s, the happiest time of the year was when the rains would come and the roads would close, and I'd go out and cut my telephone wires with scissors, so to make sure I couldn't plug it back in, and I'd be locked in, and I'd be completely happy then. No communication with the outside. And if you have a spiritual heart, you know what's being said. There is a God, and in a state of illumination, you're filled with this joy, this wonderful, this happiness all the time. And you're dying all the time because you're embodied in some sense, you're incarnate, And you must give it away. You must end the violence, the insipidness, the sharp edges for everyone. You're driven. Every second to draw it into yourself, to suck it back from the world, but you have to convince each person that you don't have to live like this. You don't have to live like this. This is hell, the world that seems to be. There are no bodies or places or times, no nouns, not even adjectives. There are just clouds of unimaginable beauty and purity. They're yours. They're you. You are your etheric double, they used to call it. Your light body, your soul, your spirit. That's you. How else can this be said? My friend Susan put a book together for me called After Time that with great beauty and dignity explains all the different conditions of the world whatsoever in a very intelligent way and saying, not this, not that. In other words, it does you no good to bring up anything about the world. It doesn't matter. When you're here, it's the end of all the violence, all the pain, all the death. This is why I'm doing it. All my friends are in their 80s or whatever, and they got this condition and that condition. And many of mine have passed already, but they're always here. We talked to my sisters, 4 sisters lately, and we're all like, we're here in this place. It's forever. And we all have this condition or that condition or the other, and I have to end it for everyone. For my sisters, my friends, my loved ones. No more funerals. Need not be. No more outsourcing the elderly. We outsource everything. There's just this purity, this joy, this wonder. A solemnity. And when you're in the midst of it, which is forever, the state called enlightenment, God consciousness, there are unimaginable dimensions that you're aware of always. And yet you're this person here, so you're so driven that you're basically like Rodin carving himself. You know, like they talk about the great sculpting of like Michelangelo was asked by the Pope or whatever it was. And he said he didn't create the beauty, he's just chipping away at the rock, at the wood, whatever, to get to the beauty that's within, right? And you feel that way. There's no ego. Whatever this thing called an ego is, it's not it. There's a simplicity in the spiritual heart. It's lighter than air, and you're willing to hang on a cross all day, every day, and you do. It's tremendously grievous to be spiritual in this world. And you won't walk away from it ever. You're willing to bleed for those you love. And you do willingly and happily, if that can be understood. If I can die for you, I will. All spiritual people live with this. It's so hard to communicate. And you want to communicate it for your friends and loved ones and for every person, that they understand and comprehend that the horrors of this present condition of this world need not be. Yes, you enter God consciousness through enjoying nature, love, beauty, kindness, but Enter into it fully, completely. Give yourself to love. All it costs is letting go of your pain, your fear, your trauma. Be willing to bleed joyfully for those you love. And I'm not saying in the sense of physical, I'm in the spiritual sense. Because that heals all. Because it is all. Because you're all. Point, starting from the beginning with the sharp edges, God did not create this. This is a madness that is so infinitesimal, infinitely smaller than the smallest subatomic particle. This, when you feel this, as I'm feeling it now, there's endless. But you step into it invisibly, lightly. Not even carefully, you're just aware of all these wonderful planes of being. These great, great dimensions. And they're all wondrous and good and true and forever. Because you're wondrous, you're true, you are forever. You don't have to take it. Meditation, prayer, just talking with God. He'll talk to you, he listens to you. God actually is God. But it's a pure state of beingness that where we arrive at, and we become aware of God and become as God is. In other words, the human mind, not this, not that, doesn't exist in this awareness. It's something else. It's an openness, a clarity, a beauty, a dignity, a genius, like my friend. But having this spiritual mind, when you have a genius enter into this, then they'll shake up this world. It need not be. He's yours. We're his. Again, words fail. There's just beauty. Write poetry at night about the one you love or care for. Give yourself to it. And this thing called faith, which is invisible, is more powerful than all the standing armies of the world. It's more wonderful than a great marriage or beauty or dignity. It's so much more than everything. But it's not more than the meditation of the sage meaning the wise one, meaning you. We give ourselves to this openness, this beauty. We are this openness, this beauty, this kindness. We are as God is. And there are no words for this clarity, this beauty, this dignity, this wonder, except to know that it is you. There's nothing wrong with you. You'll complete your mission here by stepping back through it and realizing it is an illusion, this hell, this seeming world. There's nothing solid. There's no sense of time or place. There's not even a sense of beauty because you turn into an infinite beauty. Your consciousness is so wonderful. And it's unbelievably powerful. And yes, it can be used to extinguish this world if its participants won't yield to the light. But you turn it up enough, when you burn bright enough, you'll burn right through this thing. At that moment, it will have never been. The world has no power. Fear, illness, loneliness, they're nothing. A misplaced faith. Not this, not that. The world can never improve or get better. We don't work on it socially, politically. When this consciousness is understood, then we'll do what we have to do around the clock. We talked about Dag Hammarskjöld, the second Secretary General of the United Nations. When he died, we read his writings, and a book was put together called Markings, and you'll see from his little statements throughout it that he understood all these deeper truths and yet gave himself to do what he could do in this world to improve it as it is, but always knowing that it isn't. But yet you have to do something, some way, somehow, to change this madness, to take away the pain, to eradicate, to heal it, to obliterate it, if it must be. It has no power over you. You are the light that was to come. You are the light. And in that light that is you, there's no darkness. Again, words. But this awareness, talk to God, God will talk to you. And you do it in any form you want. I can talk to my Aunt Miriam. She was president of the American Jewish Congress when I was bar mitzvahed. Just more grace and dignity and elegance, like my friend Susan, just powerful, most wonderful speaker ever, just unimaginable goodness and purity. And so I can think of her, I can think of my mom or your mom or my friends here, and it puts me in a deeper state, a better time, a better place. So speak to the sages, the saints, somebody wonderful in your life that may have passed or not passed. And that just opens up this door, and then I can speak right now to 6,000 other people that I spoke to that were spiritual in my mind when I wrote a book called Paradise many, many years ago. And I didn't write the book wrote me. I saw it in a vision in 1968 in Philadelphia one night, and I couldn't believe the wording and the beauty, and then sure enough sat down to write it 10 years later when I was living alone in the woods. Literally 6,000 teachers touched me, and I wrote down a page or a paragraph, a sentence or a word from each of them, and whether it was Albert Einstein or whoever, Jesus Christ or Moses, whoever, it's just endless, and many that I knew from professional life. And I remember reading I'll leave this go and just leave it with this, that communicate to God, communicate to your mom, to those who have passed, and they're in a state where the pain of the world is gone, and work on that. Understand that you can end this all the separation of people, of times, of places, through prayer, through contemplation, through simply knowing it's not this, it's not that it's always you, it's always been you. And that's it. You are a spiritual light in a darkened world. And turn it up. It's all. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Skolta.